Hi there, you're listening to Unnatural Selection, the show about newsy type stuff and things. My name is George.
My name is Tom.
My name is Adam.
And with our powers combined, we are Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Funny story, your elder brother Tom, worldwide famous author and lovely human being, Jack Heath, sent me a message the other day that just said, salubrious! Salubrious in all caps, and it was a link to a video that was talking about. It was like a skit that was like every haunted house film ever, and one of the things he says about the house is that it's very unsalubrious. So
was the video in and of itself salubrious?
No, it was a comedy horror sketch situation. So
I'm gonna level with you guys. George, you've said the word salubrious, so I have heard the word salubrious come out of your mouth at least once per week for I think 8 years.
Yeah,
I don't know how many years into the show it was you started saying it, but I've heard it at least once a week. And I've heard it so much, it has lost all meaning. For a word that I hear on at least weekly basis, and that I still couldn't tell you what it means. If you ambushed me with what does salubrious mean? I'd be like, it means website. Fuck. I don't know what it means still.
It means like warm and inviting, comfortable. But your brother sent it to me and said with this word salubrious on it. And I had to think, I was like, do I still use the word salubrious at the start of the show? Because I honestly I go into straight up autopilot when we're doing that. I don't know, I black out. I just kind of wake up and it's just kind of coming back the guy from Breaking Bad, just wandering out of a fugue state and just find myself in the show. That's normally how it works. And the intro's happened. I trust my brain that I did it all correctly, but I had no memory of it. And I had to sort of rehearse it in my head. Use up something. My name is with that pass by. We are. Oh yeah, I do the salubrious thing. I do that every week. I've just forgotten.
That's like the alphabet. So if you said to me, recite the alphabet or what letter comes after whatever letter, what comes after the letter T, I would have to sing the alphabet song all the way through to be able to get to you.
I feel like I can start the alphabet song.
I have to go A, B, C, D, E, F, G. I
don't have to do the whole thing.
I have to do the whole thing
like a child.
I'm going to get real, hello, I work in IT, that I do so many VLOOKUPs in my Excel spreadsheets and you have to know how many columns along you are. I'm really good at knowing, how many letters into the alphabet a certain letter is. So I'm like, I've got to be working with column I. Well, that's the 9th letter of the alphabet, so it's 9 letters in and...
How fun is modern office life? How great is just dealing with spreadsheets?
I was discussing it with someone the other day, to which the third person in the conversation said, "Are you talking about Excel spreadsheets? We're in a bar." They were looking at me being like, "Why are you talking about this here?" And I felt really called out, but it was also fair. But the conversation was just about us talking about how much we love using Excel.
This pivot table, let me explain to you because it's really cool what it does.
The thing that I brought up was more like, oh man, not until I got my corporate office job did I realize being like, man, Excel is so useful. They should teach it in schools. And then I remembered they did.
They did.
And then I didn't touch it for 10 years. And that's why I don't know what I'm doing. So yeah, that was my funny realization. But yes, they called me out for talking about Excel in a bar. But you know what? I don't know. Talk about what you love.
Tom. Guess what though? You got some more news to talk about now, Tom. You can talk about things in a bar that's not just Excel spreadsheets, because, ladies and gentlemen, after months and months of procrastination of just when's he gonna do it? And then Scott Morrison being
the election, dickhead.
I'll do it when I'm gonna do it, guys. Psych. Anyway, Scott Morrison has finally called the election.
Okay, so a few things.
Scheduled for the 21st of May.
21st of May. Now, I get the call election dickhead Twitter thing that was trending because, we as a society are all fucking sick of this thing and we just want it to be over and done with. So, call the election dickhead. Totally understand that sentiment. But what I hate is when journalists will just, ask the question over and over again as to like when the election's going to be. And he goes, I haven't called it and I will call it when we call it. And they go, will you call it on Sunday? And he goes, as I said, we're going to call it when we call it. And then once we called it, then it will have been called. And they're like, will you call it on Friday? It's like, how is this the question? You guys are trained journalists. How are these the fucking questions? They're like,
I feel
maybe if I ask it a 12th way, he'll secretly go, yeah, no, I'll call it on Thursday. Fuck! Oh, fuck! Fuck!
No, the real question, yeah, I guess there's ways to be asking that question repeatedly while still having it be useful to be like, would you say that you're stalling calling the election because it's really close to insert recent scandal?
Right.
And even better if the journalist phrases it exactly like that. If they actually say insert recent scandal, because there's been so many scandals recently that it is applicable.
It was weird. Patricia Karvelis, affectionately known as PK, was hosting Insiders this morning because David Spears was sick with a spicy cough. But he couldn't help it. As soon as they called the election, he was like back on the TV from his house being like, please let me on television. I wish I wasn't sick this week. I really wanted to be on TV this week. Yeah. And she was doing the same thing with Deputy Leader of Labor, Richard Marles. There's like, I feel like it's like mainstream political journalists. It seems like all they read is mainstream political journalism. And so they come at it with this like the same thing, the same like unfresh set of ideas to every interview. So the whole interview with Richard, well, not the whole interview, a good portion of the interview with Richard Marles was like, someone said that you want to be treasurer. Do you think Jim Chalmers should stay treasurer or do you want to be treasurer? And he goes, well, you know, that's up to Anthony Albanese. And she's like, no, actually, I looked at the rules and you can choose the position that you want. So do you want to be treasurer? And he's like, please, for the love of God, let me talk about some of the policies that we have. I don't want to talk about this. Like, we're focused on winning the election. We'll deal with it then. And she goes, okay, do you want to be defense minister though? I was like,
It's far more. Also, talking about
who's the fucking defense minister? Who cares?
It's far more interesting about the goss. That's what we're all in here for. As I said to you before the show, Tom was in the bathroom, but I basically said, I don't give a fuck about the politics. I know who I'm voting for at this point. I just want to see who gets scratched. I want to see all the politicians that are mowing swat stickers into their lawn or having businesses that are selling to some third world country that's a conflict of interest or some shit. I want to see that kind of stuff come into play. I want to see but I'm going to stab you for the next role or whatever else. And then like after the election, I want to see I'm going to step down and do the right thing. And then I want to see the liberal bloodbath.
Yeah.
I want to see. I'm here for that.
In order to spend time with one of my several families. I agree. Like, I certainly do enjoy the messy bitch tea spilling portion of the election. There's generally always a few people whose heads go rolling. The political nerd in me does get, a bit excited about that, a bit hard for it. But like, from a regular Australian, it just seems like the media is so disconnected from the everyday reality of Australians. And maybe that's because they're all kind of like quite well-paid talking heads and they don't think about it. But like, Australians don't care. Like, I really give no shits about where Richard Marles ends up in the cabinet. I'll know. I figure he'll be there somewhere. He's the deputy Labor leader. He's going to end up with something pretty good, most likely. So like, what Australians care about is like cost of petrol, inflation. How the fuck am I going to feed my kids this week? What do I do about childcare? What do I do about vaccinating my 3-year-old who's not old enough to get vaccinated yet, but is still at risk because they're around other kids? Like, these are the things that Australians, climate change, it's just like the planet on fire. Those sorts of things are the things that Australians care about. But the whole media infrastructure is just kind of like this mean girls fucking, you can't sit with us fucking club of, they're so focused on 100% the wrong things. I just find it infuriating. I don't like the 24-hour coverage today, the shot-by-shot coverage of Scott Morrison driving down to Government House to ask the Governor General to dissolve Parliament so he can call an election. They're like, and he's in the car. We've got aerial shots of the car driving. And they're like, and the BMW actually has armor-plated glass on the front of it. So interesting there.
Like it's like an OJ driving down the freeway.
Yeah, like they're calling it's a white Bronco driving down the highway being and then there's like they're covering other news stories about the election being called today, and then there's a little corner
on fire.
Yeah, I know, right? West Australia is literally on fire. But
I actually have no idea, but like that could be a thing.
I'm sure there's always some portion of the country that's probably on fire at any given time. It's a safe enough bet to make. But like at the bottom right-hand corner of the screen, there's just like more shots of the car. Like, don't forget the car's still driving.
It's still going.
It's just like this breathless coverage of the fucking car. I'm like, guys, there's so much stuff. Go to Casey Briggs with his magic numbers screen and talk about electorates. There's things you could be talking about. And they're like, and another thing about the car is that it's a white BMW and it's we can see the cavalcade. We're just waiting here at the airport. Scott Morrison's going to be taking off at some point. We're just rolling footage of a flight attendant with her back to the camera, just hanging out. He will be arriving at any moment. And 15 more minutes of this, guys. Just keep stretch. Just keep stretching.
If he didn't go to Government House and he went to like Macca's or something, like just to fuck with
Engadine Macca's?
Yeah, that would have been hilarious.
Just for the record, according to emergencywa.gov, 6 fires in WA recorded in the last 24 hours.
Is that more or less than usual? I don't have no frame of reference for that.
I actually guessed that there was a fire in Western Australia, and turns out,
I think it was clearly a safe bet.
Safe assumption.
Yeah, and just. Oh, man, the thing that I'm just really not looking forward to with now that the election's being called, because it happens every election, right, is that like now that it's officially called is now when everyone gets up and starts making their speeches, right? And Anthony Albanese, now running for Prime Minister officially, got up to do his speech, and I was reading the transcript and just thinking, saying all the right things, like talking about that, if elected, we'll fix the NBN, we'll establish a federal anti-corruption commission, we're going to be it will make Australia like a beacon of clean energy and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I always read these speeches and I'm like, yes, awesome, sounds great. Does that mean the Labor Party's going to stop taking money from fossil fuel interests? And they'll be like, I learned the value of $1 as a child growing up with a single mum. Like, it's not what I asked you, Albo.
I love how they say like this whole media narrative of like, everyone's getting to know Anthony Albanese. I'm like, the guy's been in politics for decades. like that whole story about him knowing the value of $1 and growing up with a single mom. I feel like I've heard that 1,000 times. If anyone doesn't know who Albo is at this point, it's their own fault. They haven't been paying attention.
Really pushing this narrative of nobody's heard of the opposition guy. It's like
cutting through some of the what they're trying to do is cut through, right? Because like there are people like certain family members of mine who just go, just think Jim Chalmers is an arrogant prick, and like you won't be able to change their mind about that unless you potentially, for some people that may be a bit more, certain people in the community may, if you have that sort of personal narrative, you may be able to cut through.
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know how many. Be prepared for a lot of millennials having dinner table disagreements with their parents for the next couple of months.
6 weeks.
Getting very upset. So my mum was over last night for dinner, and we very delicately danced around the subject because she knows how I feel. She knows how I feel. I know how she feels. She goes, "Oh, so I heard they may be calling the election tomorrow," and I was like, maybe. I wish they would call it.
Yeah, just be like, yes. Yes. Is the answer to that statement.
Correct. That they will call the election, and we are both keen for it to happen, but for very different reasons.
Yeah. Like, yes,
you done something with your hair.
Yeah, they're going to be calling the election tomorrow. That's right. You are leaning more right. No, damn it. Like, I was trying to avoid it.
So Scott Morrison put up, and this is the other thing with now that they've announced it, you're going to start seeing are you ready, boys? Are you ready for it? The ads.
Oh,
and this is where all those marketing guys, the big firms, this is where they're going to get they're going to earn their money, and we're going to see a lot of pre-prepared marketing footage. Unless you're the United Australia Party, in which case they've been spitting that shit out.
I was going to say, am I going to now, is the next 6 weeks going to make me miss the days where it was just a big yellow billboard that I could yell boo at every time I drive past it?
Billboards for everyone, and they're all going to be followed by
Scott
Morrison's got his first one up on Twitter, and do we want to roll a bit of that?
When do you think they filmed it? Maybe before all the chaos?
3 years ago.
It must have been
filmed it before all the scandals.
We just want to get some B-roll in case we need it.
All right, so here's Scott Morrison, and the tweet was, "Why I love Australia."
You always have setbacks. You always have imperfect information. I mean, things are tough. And they've been really tough. There's drought, there's floods, there's fire, there's pandemic. There is now war. We're dealing with a world that has never been more unstable since the time of the Second World War. We're dealing with an economy which has more moving parts and more risks, but indeed many, many opportunities that we have to seize. 40,000 people are alive in Australia today because of the way we managed the pandemic. 700,000 people still have jobs and countless numbers of businesses that would have been destroyed. This is why, as we go into this next election, what's firing me up? We're actually in a really strong position. I was at a trade school the other day in Brisbane, year 11 and 12. I asked them, I said, how many of you are going to start your own business? More than half of their hands went. How good's that? That's why I love Australia.
Authorised S. Morrison, Liberal, Canberra.
There's floods and droughts and tough times and war. Like, these are all the reasons I love Australia. I love Australia because things are terrible, but some people might go into their own business. Also, oh God, there's 45,000 people alive today because of how we responded to the pandemic. Well, okay, but there's 6,500 dead. No, glass half full or empty kind of situation.
How do they model that, do you think? How does he come up with the figure 40,000?
45,000 or whatever. Yeah, I'd be very interested to see the maths on that.
Just a rough guess. Just what Jeff said. Jeff told me it was 45,000. So.
Yeah, if there's one thing you can say about the Liberal government, it's that they really handled the pandemic with aplomb. I think all Australian voters really feel that way. I think they really feel like the LNP really just fucking nailed it. Like,
could it have been worse? Definitely could have been worse, but it wasn't like perfect.
That should be their slogan for the last 9 years. LNP could have been worse.
And yeah, and also like fucking the gall on them for them to have like part of their messaging being like times are tough, that there's fires, floods, drought, like, while then also like not mentioning this in the ad, but I think the logical conclusion to him bringing that up is, and we're doing fuck nothing about it if we get re-elected. Like, we're acknowledging that fires are bad. End of sentence. Like just that's it. We're not going to do anything about it. We're not going to do anything about climate change. We're not going to do anything. But I've acknowledged it. And how good's Australia? That's one for me before. How bloody good is it?
It's not
Go
so much.
Fuck yourself, Scott Morrison. Eat my entire asshole. That invitation to fly down here to eat my ass is well and truly still open.
as is your asshole. It's just the thing that really frustrated me about this ad was that it was just clearly not. It was just clearly just about ScoMo. Like, it wasn't about the people of Australia. It's like, if you're asking the people of Australia for your votes, don't you need to like talk about Australia and what it is and your plans for it, rather than just going, how good is fucking starting your own business? Like, it just really has. It's
going off that thing of like, it's a nationalist populist sort of thing, right? Of you going off the characterization of that's why I love my country, because I love my country. And so if I love my country, therefore I will do the best things for you living in that country.
Okay, but like detail one of them.
No. Oh,
detail
no, yeah, of course.
one of
Yeah,
those
it's
things.
It was an ad based on emotion. I mean, the Netflix music in the background,
You know
like
what?
he's some, and then like some fucking hero going off to war with the the shots, the B-roll in the background,
Yeah.
the fucking. We'll talk about the thing about the finger in the minute, but
Mm.
the stuff that's just designed to make you feel is there's a lot of scary stuff in the world, so it's best you go with the devil you know than the devil you don't.
Yeah.
And I fucking love Australia, and a couple of catchphrases in there, like how good is that? Like,
Yeah,
See, I would
was
say
a lot
ScoMo.
of fan service.
Yeah.
A lot like this
ScoMo?
last Spider-Man film. They're like, "Oh, I'm somewhat of a scientist." They're like, "Yes, we all know the line. Play the hits.
see-
we know."
See, following on from that, Adam, I'd say ScoMo. I know both devils, and I'm going with the devil I like more.
Yes.
it's classic L&P strategy, by the way. Like it's emotive and it's fear mongering.
Yeah.
That is like classic LNP. Like the marketing agency's done a very good job because that will trigger a lot of people. Like in a vote for them. Do you know what I mean? Like,
it's funny because like that has
either positively or negatively. It'll trigger people to be like, "Oh my god, there are foreigners in the country. I should vote LNP," and the rest of us will just be like, "Triggered. I hate them."
lots of people are going to be triggered regardless. Yeah, but you're right, Adam. That has been their broader strategy, is basically saying like, "Oh, you can't trust Albanese with the economy." And it's like, he has an economics degree and he's been in public life for his entire career. Like, if there's one person, it's like, it is kind of the most qualified cabinet, opposition to a government that's ever been. Like, I don't think you can really level those attacks. Well, not in a way that's honest. You can't level those attacks against Anthony Albanese. But so the other thing that was notable in this ad is that a shot in the middle of it, obviously you won't be able to tell this because if you're listening to the audio, but that shot in that ad focuses very closely on the ring finger of Scott Morrison for several seconds. And I remember when I was watching that for the first time.
Showing his wedding band.
Showing his wedding band, yes. Yeah. And I kind of, when I watched it, I was like, what? That's weird. Why they, did someone just not edit the shot early enough? It just kind of looks like it's lingering. Like it's like a watch ad for Omega in a James Bond film.
I mean, it makes a nice shot. Like, in terms of like shot composition and things, like just a nice close up, you see in the ring, it's like it's a character touch, like it says something about the person in the scene. Like, it's all there and it's all well and good. But George, please continue, because I think what it means.
Yeah, so essentially what I realized after going on Twitter and seeing what other people had to say about it, they're like, "Oh no, it's because Anthony Albanese's unmarried." So they're clearly trying to do a family value. It's like, how good is fucking Scott? How good is Australia? How good are conservative family values? And you could trust Scott Morrison because some dopey bitch decided to marry him 30 years ago and squeeze out a couple of fat kids. Like that, and that, I guess, is the reason that we're going to vote for him and not Anthony Albanese. It's just like such a weird, mean-spirited attack to be like,
it's not an attack. It's just it's a motive. It's it's playing on emotion.
They are clearly trying to draw a distinction between, family values Scott Morrison, who loves his wife, family values Christian Scott Morrison, family values who is in Hillsong, but also simultaneously not in Hillsong at the same time. And
in Hillsong, right up until the guy that I was great friends with may have been covering up for a pedophile. I was all about it until I knew about that.
Yeah. And now, and so he's super religious, and I guess Anthony Albanese is some hedonistic, fuckboy, playboy billionaire philanthropist, I guess.
Fuck.
And
I'd like him more if that was what he was like.
I would admire him more if that were the case. But yeah, so it's like his wife left him, I think it was in 2018, and now he's got a girlfriend, Jody something or other.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah,
who cares?
Who cares?
Like, that doesn't matter. Like, yes, unless the marriage like ending was due to him like murdering someone or like anything that would be a great blight of character that you might not want to elect a leader. I don't give a shit. I don't give a shit whether you got divorced.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we do have a millionaire playboy philanthropist, and his name is Clive Palmer.
Playboy? Philanthropist?
I mean, he plays with... No. What's that next part? He plays with lots of money, put it that way.
He reads a lot of Playboys, I think is what Adam was trying to say there.
Playboys.
Dig up, you idiot. Dig up.
Dig out, just like Scott Morrison should have done at a pre-announcement. This is the other day. He had a little, what would you call it? A media event, sort of in the community, sort of a networking event. I don't know what you'd call it really. It was at the Edgeworth Tavern in Lake Macquarie in New South Wales. Publicity stunt's probably the way to put it.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you're running for Prime Minister of Australia. You've got to be going around shaking hands, kissing babies, and sinking pints. And you also have to look like you've never enjoyed a beer in your life while doing it.
Yeah, it's there was so there's this exchange with an older gentleman, presumably a pensioner, at this club in was it Newcastle? We just said,
yeah, Newcastle,
and
no, it was
wasn't it Newcastle?
You can
Lake
Google
Macquarie,
that,
isn't it?
Anyway.
Yeah, Lake Macquarie is where they were, but it's in the seat of in the seat of Newcastle, I thought.
Whatever.
Anyway.
So
it's in that region. Yeah.
In New South Wales.
He's talking to this elderly pensioner, and there's a whole media scrum around him, and he's doing his very best to like trying to look as though he gives a shit what this fucking old man says, and he's not happy about it, and I don't know, it was just kind of nice seeing the light die in Scott Morrison's eyes, and just hearing "Hello Darkness," the sound of silence just playing over the top of the scene.
Some delicious Schadenfreude.
Yeah, it was pretty good. So let's have a look at that.
Pensioner is allowed to earn a couple of $100 before it affects his pension. Right, now I'm being treated, I've been fighting for 12 years, mate. 12 years. You treat a disability pensioner that's worked all his life, paid his taxes, now he's getting taxed again. This is what you said when you got elected last time. We're going to help all those people that worked all their lives, paid their taxes, and those that have a go will get a go. Well, I've had a go, mate. I've worked my whole life and paid my taxes. Yes. All right, now who can I contact tomorrow? Hey, I'm doing this before the election, mate, because this is 2 promises that you made. You know another promise that you made? Hey, yeah, no, you know, you're going to have an integrity commission. Hey, I've been to welfare rights, everything. You got the foxes looking after the hen.
Speak up for yourself. Speak up for yourself. Good on you, man. Good on you.
Bloody love it that like you can see like the huge damage control going on through that, in that, like, you know, the guy, the man talking to him is like quite loud and angry and yelling at him. You can barely hear a word Scott Morrison's saying back to him, because he's clearly like, the whole room's hearing what he's yelling at me, but he clearly doesn't want the whole room to hear what he's saying back to him.
Now, my empathy coach Kyle told me to keep a level sotto voce,
like
just a nice,
just to be like, no,
tone.
I don't want other people to hear the bullshit that I'm just like giving this man so that they can use it against me.
He just hasn't got the microphone next to him. Come on,
he's yelling while ScoMo's being like.
Yelling back at him is not going to exactly be a good strategy. I don't know. Everyone's like, oh, Scott Morrison hasn't got a heart. I'm like, I think he's just got ambushed, and anyone would get shitty at this guy yelling at him. I would get shitty at him.
I think both things can be true. He doesn't have a heart, and he was ambushed.
Yeah. No, that's exactly right, Tom.
Yeah.
He was ambushed, and he's a piece of shit. Both things are true.
Yeah.
I do kind of get, like, it's good in some ways, because like it should be as a voter, you should be able to talk to the power base, right?
Yeah, but you're asking them to vote for you.
I don't like it when people do this to politicians, because it doesn't actually achieve anything.
Good. Put them on the spot.
Doesn't actually achieve anything.
No, I disagree. Put them on the spot and force them, without the filter of like a 50mm fucking Sigma lens, to actually talk on the spot about what it is they're doing for you and what they're doing for the country, and calling them on their bullshit. Because if they haven't got ready answers to that, then what are they other than some fucking spokes cunt for their, you know, for the drafted letters of their staff? Like, what is a politician other than the things that they say they will do to and for their electorate, right?
Yeah, but the guy's not even listening. He's just yelling at him.
Well, maybe he deserves to be heard out. Maybe he deserves to be yelled at. When you say you're going to look after disabled people and pensioners, and you spend 3 years not giving a single fuck about them, maybe you deserve to be yelled at.
And also the kinds of responses that you can vaguely pick up from ScoMo is him trying to be like, let's like not do this right now, and I'll palm you off to some person that we can book to get me out of this situation. He's being like, no, okay, you're ignoring my question, so shut the fuck up and actually answer my question. He's essentially doing what Ted Cruz was doing in the hearings for the Supreme Court last week, except actually doing it in good faith rather than just being like, no, you're not listening to my gotcha, so shut the fuck up. I'm like, no, actually, you're dodging the question.
This old guy's completely right. If you get handed off to some fucking... That's why he said, let me know who I can speak to tomorrow about this. Where are the contact details? Because he knows you're going to get handed off to some fucking staffer, and then so all of a sudden the Prime Minister's gone, your moment's gone. Actually, no one gives a fuck about you. This was just to get you out from in front of the cameras. Nobody actually gives a fuck about you or solving your problem. Right? That's why I say I want someone I can meet with about this, talk to about this particular problem he's having tomorrow, because he knows how it works. Like,
I think I'm sort of like, as someone who works in customer service, I feel a bit sort of like having some PTSD around.
You know what a prime minister is, Adam? He's the ultimate customer service representative.
Yeah.
He's responsible to every customer above 18 years old in Australia.
Yeah, but also, like, don't yell at customer service people, but also customer service people don't, control whether or not you get to live or eat
what
or,
I like
like,
video
come into the country.
There's this guy in the back left, and this is it's audio medium. But anyway, for those who want to find the clip online, there's a guy, an old white-haired guy in the back left-hand corner above where the gentleman who's yelling at Scott Morrison is standing, and he's just having a great time. It's just like just having a good old wry chuckle.
It's a whale of a time
about everything that's happening.
Yeah, just having a smile.
The links for all of these articles that we talk about, links and more, they're always in the show notes, by the way. So I don't know if I've mentioned that I do that. I've started doing that a couple of years ago, where basically if you go into the notes section of the podcast episode, there'll be a link for each one of the stories. So yeah, if you're interested in seeing that video.
For several years, but we've literally never mentioned it.
Not once. Yeah.
Like until now.
No. So all of those, anytime we talk about a story or something that we've sourced, we put it in the notes, which I say it has to be a little better than some mainstream journalist outlets that we pay attention to. All of our shit is sourced. So,
but it's been a good week for telling politicians to go fuck themselves, because this happened to ScoMo. I don't think I put this in the rundown, but Craig Kelly getting egged the other day was also great.
I think he's going to sue that lady apparently, but apparently, and Albanese got heckled by someone as well, from memory.
Oh, I missed that. Well, when did that happen?
Around the same time. It was reported within the same period. Yeah.
I don't like Craig Kelly. I think he's a fuckwit, but I'm going to say this again publicly. I don't think politicians should be getting egged, even the fuckheaded ones.
Nah, egg the ones that hang out with Nazis.
Tom, don't egg your politicians. I want to stress this very firmly.
Only the ones that hang out with Nazis.
No.
Don't deg your politician. Don't egg your politician.
Unless they hang out with Nazis.
Okay. All right.
Well, obviously got a difference of opinion here, so we'll just agree to disagree and move on.
What's the background there? Does he actually hang out with Nazis? So she was yelling that over and over, so I assume it's true. But do you know the detail of that, or?
Well, it's just all these freedom protest Nazi marches he's been appearing at and speaking at, and the Canberra march, the people ambushing Parliament House and stuff up in Canberra. He's appeared there. He's appeared at the ones the reason he was here, I think, when the egging happened, it happened here in Melbourne. I think he had come down here to attend one of these freedom rally marches that are a mix of anti-vaxxers, neo-Nazis, and all dickheads.
Weird eclection, isn't it, of the these? I don't know if it's the alt-right in Australia, but it's the freedom movement is a weird eclection of fringe politics that are all sort of happy to coalesce.
It's alt-righty. It definitely has elements of
alt-righty.
that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like, the anti-vaxxers are hanging out with some Nazis, and then they're also hanging out with some people who just love fucking Australia. And then it's like they're all just sort of like coalescing under the same sort of guise. And it's weird because normally you probably wouldn't find those people in the same room. But anyway,
It's almost like they're uniting under the same banner. A
United
Australia Party, if you will.
Yeah, that's my major fear for the election is how that's going to have an effect on the traditional voter bases and where votes will go because of that. Theoretically, you'd probably see a loss to the LNP more than you would to Labor, but it'll be interesting.
I mean, the people I have in my life that are kind of quite conservative, diminishing number though they are, have basically said, like, I refuse to vote for the LNP. Like, they're idiots. Obviously, they've fucked everything up. So what I'll do is I'll vote for Pauline Hanson or United Australia Party. So clearly there is a contingent there of sort of like quite conservative people that are getting peeled away from the LNP. And they're also having to compete on the sort of left flank in inner city LNP seats, like, Trent Zimmerman's seat and, places that were Josh Frydenberg's seat of Kooyong, like places that were traditionally like blue ribbon liberal seats. They're now having to compete with these, the independents or with Labor on where they haven't had to before. So it doesn't, competing on your left and your right does leave you sort of the ham and the sandwich, as it were. So it's not great for them, but yeah, again, I'll say this up until the date of the election. They're like, look, there's a 10-point margin between Labor and the Liberal Party. Like, it's impossible for them to lose. I'm like, let's just wait till election day. The only poll that matters is the one that happens on election day. I'm not getting fucking sucking in again. We're all fucking traumatized from 2019 where they're like, Labor, the unlosable election. Oh no, what's happening to him? Oh God, oh no, oh stop, he's already dead. Like, it's
actually an interesting article in the ABC today about how the new way that they're going to be presenting polling that's been like something they've been developing for the past few years, like less about just reporting what the poll stats are, but like taking averages out of like the various sources of polling. It was a bit over my head, but I was like, all right, so the way they're representing polling data this time around is to try and curb exactly that, where they were all like so wrong. They have at least learnt the statistical lesson. Whatever that may be, I'm not a statistician.
As someone who is a North Melbourne supporter and has learnt the hard way that you don't count your chickens before they hatch, I'll be waiting for the chickens to hatch. Now,
what about chickens before they roost? Is that still okay?
Oh yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yep. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. You could count them in your imagination. Interesting story came out this week. And I don't really know where this came from. The ABC's got an article on it. There's this mystery foundation that's been established less than a year ago, which has got all these sort of like royal connections and like the Governor General signed off on it. It's called the Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited. It's not universal, it's limited.
It's rare. It's valuable. There's very few of them. How many were made?
5. Just
can I buy it as an NFT?
Will it appreciate with my pop vinyl collection?
So basically, this foundation, the reason why we're talking about it...
I just to interrupt there. You think Tom's joking about his pop vinyl collection, but he actually has one. That's a real thing that he has as a grown adult. Just putting it out there.
We have a bunch of decorative... we have a bunch of decorative ones, but there are the ones that we haven't taken out of the box because we know they might be worth something later. Or they'll be worth nothing, but in which case they brought us joy, George.
You can enjoy them.
Why do you hate joy?
I don't want you to think it's the same thing as putting money in the S&P 500. That's all.
Can you make an NFT for each individual pop vinyl?
You can.
I'm sure they have. Sure they have, and it's a scam. Don't buy NFTs.
You should, unless it's Tom's one that is selling.
Just don't buy NFTs.
NFTs are a scam, but my pop vinyls, you can take that to the bank.
Well, I could. It might be worth 5 cents, but it won't be something that's like we're getting derailed here. But NFTs are a scam. NFTs are a scam. NFTs.
Are we getting into that part of the college dorm room conversation where we're like, what is money? Money's just fucking conceptual, bro.
Oh, money is entirely made up, but NFTs are like the entirely made up thing of the made up thing.
Okay.
Like you've gone several like Chris Nolan dreams deep into made up money when you get to NFTs. It's a scam.
I regret bringing it up. Adam.
Anyway, so the Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited is sort of coming to the news because it's been given about, I believe it's $18 million from
not a bad bag of cash.
Federal government, and the Prime Minister's office has sort of signed up to it, but no one's really able to say what it is.
So it appears to have no office.
$3.6 million this financial year.
Yeah, so it's like 18 million over a couple of years, and 3.6 of them in this financial year. But yeah, this foundation, Australian Future Leaders Foundation Limited, has no office, website, or staff.
There's a couple of directors.
There's a couple of directors, but that's it. And so 3 people, I don't know, who can just call themselves directors and then they're handed $18 million. Guys, we've been doing this wrong.
I was going to say, do we want to start?
There's 3 of us. I'm hereby announcing us, the 3 directors of Unnatural Selection Leaders Foundation Limited. We will take our $18 million. Check is fine.
Yeah.
But thank you very much, future government. So that's interesting because it was part of Senate estimates where this sort of came up, right?
Yeah,
I think that's where it was sort of granted. They've recently been given the deductible gift recipient status under the specific listing process, so the Governor General is the patron of the program. The Prime Minister's office is going to basically help run it, but no one said what it'll do. They asked the guy, and he said in a statement, "We are delighted that on the back of 2 years of detailed consultation and design work, drawing on the experience, expertise, and support of many existing senior leaders, including national and international advisory firms, industry, not-for-profits, and the tertiary sector, the government has set aside money to invest in the program alongside others." Okay.
Cool.
But what does it do?
What does it do?
Yeah, but what do they do? And also, who are they doing the doing?
Who is it though? Who this money though?
The director is a gentleman by the name of Mr. Hartley, or one of the directors. But there's 2 other directors, which you can find on ASIC if you look it up. Well, I don't know if it's ASIC, but whatever the website is that lists these things. Yeah, and that's it. But I guess the question being is like, should an organisation that's not really got any information publicly about what it is, what it's trying to do,
who they are, what they do, like
money from the government?
Can I?
Sorry, the gentleman in the back.
Just George Tsipos, Unnatural Selection. I could feel this one. No, that's not how government money should work. As someone who's married to a grant writer who spends her days and nights slaving over proposals to government to raise money for charitable causes, that's not how any of this works. Like, you need to put forward really detailed proposals to government as to who receives the money, what happens to it, what you like, and then at the end of the process, you do an acquittal process, which is like, here's what we did with your money, and did it align with the things that we got the money for? If not, we never get money again. So like, it's a government money is a really detailed process, unless of course you're in the budget coming up to an election year, in which case you just need to get money out the fucking door. And what happens is, and I've heard different people from different organizations say this to me, that the Prime Minister's office specifically has gotten in touch with them and said like, hey, we need to announce some big spending before the election. Can we give you some money?
Yeah.
Put in a proposal for something.
What you need. Yeah.
And so that's
it's
why
Rack City, bitch.
Yeah.
What do you need?
He's basically become Tiger from the Rack City bitch song. and just needs to give out money as soon as possible. So they can then turn around and say, look, the Liberal Party is giving $11 squillion to, whatever cancer, $5 billion to this, $11 trillion to fucking tanks. It's really just so they can get out in an election year and say that, here's all the spending that we've announced. But the details as to like what $18 million is for seem fuzzier than they should be. Let's put it that way.
It's got a nice name. I'm assuming it is about generating perhaps and incubating the future leaders of Australia, perhaps, given it is called the Future Leaders Program. But, how are they going to do that?
How future? Like, are they babies now? Is this like...
It's a cryogenic freezing program.
Yeah.
Is this like the future leaders of 3025 AD when they emerge forth from cryogenesis after the fall of society? It's about training those leaders up to be,
I was more thinking it's going to be some kind of boss baby program that we've like got them as babies now, and then we create them to be these suited leaders that, they've all got Alec Baldwin's voice and,
sure.
Say that things are for closers. I don't know. I've only seen that movie in chunks. I think when I worked in a retail store and it was on the TVs, like I just saw it in bits, so I have a vague idea of the plot.
I feel like you got it.
We're talking about the baby movie.
Boss Baby,
right.
Yeah.
So Boss Baby is referencing Glengarry Glen Ross.
Well, I guess because it's Alec Baldwin is the voice actor, they have a moment where the Boss Baby says something like cookies are for closers or whatever, and all the adults in the room are like, ah!
Remember? I remember.
And I think the villain is trying to make puppies that don't grow into dogs, so they're forever puppies.
That sounds dope.
The boss baby is against that because it means that all the millennials will just get puppies that never grow up and stop having kids. So it'll end like
the babies,
human population as we know it. If we all have forever puppies. And
this
I was like,
really
that's
grim...
actually really dark.
It's extremely dark.
That would totally happen if someone like cracked that, forever puppies. So when I caught that part of the plot of Boss Baby, I was like, I underestimated you, Boss Baby. And then I saw the other bits and I'm like, this is shit. But that is a dark, like Black Mirror shit, and I love it. Anyway, the government's giving $18 million to who knows the fuck. And
Mr. Harley is actually expected to receive an award from Her Royal Highness Princess Anne this week. Well, I would have received it probably today or yesterday.
Anne. Now, Anne's the sassy one, right? I'm purely going off the crown.
Yeah.
I was going to say, Anne's the sexy one in the show, yeah.
But, like, is the one that's, like, really, like, smart and conniving and cool.
Yeah, who's now in her 60s or 70s.
She the one that when Trump came to visit, like there was like people caught in exchange where people were like, "Go say hi to Donald Trump," and she was like clearly going, "No, you fucking go say hi to Donald Trump." Being like, "I'm not going over there to talk to him," kind of thing. Like, no, you can't make me. Like, I'm not the queen. I don't have to do shit.
I'm a princess. Suck my dick, dude.
Yeah.
In terms of the gentleman that's basically set this foundation up, he apparently does a lot of work with the Commonwealth Study Conferences. Has met Princess Anne on a few different occasions. So he's setting up a dinner. Had set up. This is past tense now because this article came out beforehand. A dinner for her and her visit to Sydney this week. So he's pretty well connected. This gentleman. I would suggest perhaps this foundation is something of what an in crowd.
This is why people donate to political parties, because this is why. Is so you've got access to someone. So when you've got an idea about how to get this thing and I need some money for it and I've got a guy, let me talk to my guy. I gave him 45 grand. I've been to a bunch of his dinners. He'll help us get the $18 million for this thing. And guess what? It works. It works because our system is broken and because people are petty and corrupt, venal. Yeah, we are describing this. We're not even describing corruption, really, because this is the system operating as intended. This is just this. It was designed for this. The people who are in charge of the system allow this to happen. It's not even corruption necessarily. It's just fucking gross.
Is it corruption if it's the exact intent?
Yeah. No, it hasn't been corrupted.
Are you breaking the rules if the rules are designed to allow you to do it?
Mm. Yeah,
Speaking
this
of
is fine.
fucking gross, we're going overseas now, and the Republicans in Oklahoma basically have made abortions illegal, or at least attempting to, depending on how you want to look at sort of Supreme Court precedent.
Yeah,
George.
so the Oklahoma state legislator has been very busy. This week, they've released a bill that, and passed a bill criminalizing all abortions. That's right, you heard me, all abortions. The bill had been passed by the state Senate last year, but it had been largely abandoned as Oklahoma conservatives sought other more promising ways to restrict abortion in the state. So the idea is it's going to go to the governor's desk and it needs to be signed. But essentially, once that happens, abortion is functionally illegal in Oklahoma, with no exceptions for rape or incest. And so the whole point of this bill, signing this draconian, awful, punitive bill, is that it's going to go to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court has a very well-established conservative majority, a pro-life conservative majority. And the idea is this will be the case that overturns Roe versus Wade. And it's not just bad for Oklahoma. I feel like I'm sort of doing my best impression of Australian John Oliver without any of the comedy. And another reason why this is fucked. I should be arguing with a fake squirrel or something in order to really bring it to life like John Oliver does. But
no, you gotta throw in. But the fact is, with the hand.
Yes.
Fact is,
the reason why this is especially double fucked is that there are a bunch of states in America that already have laws ready to go, laws that they call trigger laws. And essentially, well, I mean, it's exactly what you think it is, where these 12 states have laws that are ready to go in case Roe versus Wade gets overturned on the federal level of the Supreme Court, and they will immediately have functional bans in place for abortions in those states as well, provided that Roe versus Wade gets overturned. So the idea is like Roe versus Wade gets overturned, Oklahoma has their absurdly draconian law put into place, and then 12 other states go, great, we'll take one of those. Thank you very much.
Stashing your anti-abortion laws for a rainy day is particularly fucked.
Yeah, whenever they weren't working on your potholes or like, you know, delivering hospitals, health services during the pandemic, and this is what they were working on. This is what they had ready to go in the chamber because it was of the utmost importance. 21 states already have laws or amendments in place that would make them certain to ban abortion as quickly as possible. So essentially, once Roe versus Wade gets overturned, abortion becomes functionally impossible to get in half the country.
I just don't like. I get it from like I'm a Christian and this is my values perspective, but like,
do you? I might require some explaining on that.
What I'm saying is, it's obviously a well-established thought bubble, right? In those circles. What I don't understand is the next step, which they obviously haven't thought about, which is, okay, so then your birth rate goes up and you've got a lot of unintended pregnancies, and the concept around what happens then.
Fuck those people.
Are you as the senator going to then raise all the children that are being?
Here is the semi-serious answer. Yeah. Fuck those people, because those people are whores and they shouldn't have had sex in the first place. Yeah. So fuck them. They're going to hell.
Yeah, I saw a fantastic analysis on this. I can't remember who it was. It was a Twitter thread, so take it with a grain of salt, I suppose. But the way they phrased it was around, they don't care about life. They care about, quote unquote, innocence. And like that unborn baby hasn't lost its innocence yet. It is a purely innocent person in their eyes. But the mother, the pregnant person who had sex or was raped or or a litany of things, who fell pregnant, they're not innocent because of what happened. They have made their awful, sinful choices and whatever, but saving the baby's innocent. But the moment it's born,
fuck him.
Who gives a fuck? Because, now it's probably not innocent because, I don't know, it does something naughty that God doesn't like.
Well, it's a primal, what's it called? The primal sin. You being alive is evidence of your sin, right?
Yeah.
Because you are continuing the tradition of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
You know, by being alive
it's-
and existing in the world. You're already a sinner as soon as you're born, right?
Yeah, and it's this backwards. It defies logic. It defies any.
They watched The Handmaid's Tale. Like, the book's been out for like 50 years.
No, of course they haven't watched it.
They are the reason
Or
The
they
Handmaid's
watched it
Tale
or
was
read
written.
it.
It's about them.
Yeah,
But
or they watched it or read it and were like,
years.
"Fuck, yes, this is great. This is a very optimistic story. This is exactly what we want."
I just don't understand the fascination the conservative movement has.
Obsession
It's
with sex,
obsession.
and with morality and with power. And this is the thing that's really at the heart of it is control over women's bodies. That's what it's about. It's about subjugation. If it was any other class in this country that was forced by the government, by jackbooted thugs to carry a life inside you, right, for 9 months, and then endure whatever other risks and whatever other, pain and medical expenses and complications that come with pregnancy. If it was any other class of citizen, they'd say, "What the fuck is this government overreach?" But because it's women, well, we like to control women and tell them what to do. So,
but also there'd be exactly the persons who'd be wanting them to get abortions if they were the ones who got them pregnant.
Oh, if it was a Republican senator, you mean?
Those Republican senators, if they're the ones that like, "Oh, my mistress is pregnant." Well, you're going to abort that pregnancy, right? It's like, "Oh, well, what about all your fucking moral grandstanding?" It's like, yeah, but it's my baby this time, and I say, kill it. Yeah. It's fun.
Yeah, it's one thing. Like, sometimes, like, you look at, like SpaceX, like there's like all these cool things that America does, and then you just look at that in Oklahoma, and you just think, how are these things in the same like?
Because America,
I don't know.
Mainstream America is housed with roughly 40 to 70 million religious extremists. Like, there is America, there's the 320 million, okay, minus 70 million, so say 250 million Americans who are just like trying to pay their taxes and like trying to get their kids to school and like trying to do normal stuff. And then there's just like 40 to 70 million Americans who are just like the Taliban. And I don't know. Christian Taliban. Like, I know we keep mentioning Jordan Klepper, but like Yul Qaeda really is the best way of describing what these people are. They're religious extremists. They want to initiate a theocracy. This is what they want. This is the stated objective of the Republican Party in many states, is to bring about the fucking end times. Like, it's...
Yeah.
Like,
there'd be a huge part of it. The reason they're legislating all this stuff, I'm greatly oversimplifying it, but that the reason they'd be legislating this sort of stuff, or at least having these bills in the chamber ready to go, is so they can say, so they can be like, well, yeah, we're anti-abortion. We can't ban abortions because of Roe v. Wade, but we got the legislation in the chamber because purely that's the people who vote for them.
Yeah, and it's the same thing with the big lie, right? You're seeing a bunch of big, candidates that are espousing the big lie.
Oh, like the QAnon and the election stealing.
Election was stolen, all this sort of bullshit. And, you hear reports about journalists and other people, insiders speaking to these people behind closed doors, being like, "Bro, do you actually believe in this stuff?" And they're like, no, of course not. But like, all my voters do, so I need to get elected. And if democracy falls in the meantime, well, so be it. Like, it's just like... A lot of these people are like, and you have the true believers, Marjorie Taylor Greene, this is the Democrats are the party of pedophiles. And it's like, bro, just Google Dennis Hastert. like, just do just a bunch of quick Googling, just a bunch of, just a couple, just a Roy Moore, just like a couple of Googles on GOP pedophiles, or you might turn up some results. I think you might be interested in what you find. But like, there are some people who are true believers.
Yeah, how she stayed in any kind of politics after the whole Jewish space lasers claim.
Yeah.
We are through the looking glass, people, that someone can just be like, "Oh no, forest fires are caused by Jewish space lasers," and they are somehow still taken seriously.
Hey, don't worry about it. The Malcolm Roberts in Australia got re-elected somehow, so you know, people.
I mean, we shat on Malcolm Roberts a lot, but he was just the data's corrupted, and why do we have a public holiday celebrating the Labor Party called Labor Day with his big stupid fuck ups? Jewish space lasers, Adam.
It's true. There's a
what? Like Malcolm Roberts is a nut bar, but Jewish space lasers? Like we're not. I don't know. Okay. Anyway,
good news story.
It is notable that House Minority Leader, a GOP person, Kevin McCarthy, has said less about Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? Saying all that crazy shit about Democrats. That apparently is fine. He's not going to say anything about. But what was that guy last week who said that he got invited to some orgies?
Republican Madison Cawthorn?
Madison Cawthorn, which is my favorite story of 2 weeks ago that we never got to talk about. But
back the fuck up. What?
Madison Cawthorn and Ken Dole, who finally got his wish and came to life. Madison Cawthorn said he's a young senator and, you know, I guess relatively attractive
young Republican
looking
senator.
Yeah, kind of looks like a Hitler Youth, that kind of look. Was apparently, he was on some sort of show and he was being asked about this, and he said that he'd been invited to, quote, sexual get-togethers by his Republican colleagues, and that he realized that was an orgy, and also that that he was seeing people, that he'd seen people do key bumps of cocaine as well. And then all of a sudden, Kevin McCarthy came out against that with very strong language and this is fucked, you need to apologize, all this sort of thing. But Marjorie Taylor Greene talks about the Jewish space lasers and what was the other thing? The Democrats are all pedophiles. Don't worry about it. Don't worry, Marjorie. We'll see you at the next two.
He's really young. 1995 he was born, Madison Cawthorn. He's disabled. And
95.
He looks like you're right. He's a handsome looking bloke. So I mean,
he's also an incredibly problematic person for a litany of reasons that I don't think we can get into.
He's 26. Yeah. Why does he look like 38?
You think he looks 38?
I think he looks young.
This guy
he looks young to me.
This guy looks like a Ken Doll fucking like an American jizz fantasy of what a young Republican should look like.
He's got a nice haircut. I'll give him that. It's a stellar haircut. He wears the fuck out of that guy.
It did look fantastic at a sexual get-together.
Sexual get-together is now my new favorite term, by the way. Described it as a
nice sexual get-together.
Movement.
Oh, and then later on...
But it's still going live and strong, guys.
Later on, he then described, he goes, okay, so people who was the person that you saw do a key bump of cocaine? Because that's a really specific phrase that you just said. He goes, it was a guy across a parking lot. I didn't get a good look at his face. But you saw that he was doing a bump of coke off a key, but you couldn't see his face. The whole thing's just super fucking weird.
I'd never heard the term key bump before, and everyone's like, yeah, you clearly were. No, if you use a phrase like key bump, you know what you're doing.
It's pretty specific to drug taking.
Cool.
Anyway. Well acquainted with the practice. So in good news, which won't make a difference, by the way, with the previous conversation we had.
Adam, you tell us that after we hear the good news and feel good, then you break our script.
Oh, sorry. No, I'm doing it ethically, Tom. So Ketanji Brown Jackson, who we spoke about 2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. I think we also might have mentioned it last week while you were away. But was successfully nominated to the Supreme Court.
Yay!
Yay! First black woman to the Supreme Court. Of course, it was always gonna happen because they had the majority in the tiebreaker vote and all that sort of stuff. But it's still good. Yes, the whole it was inevitable shouldn't take away from yay. That's some good news.
But this is why elections matter, right? People go, they're both the same. The Republicans and the Democrats, they're just as bad as one another. It's no, except they're not. Yes, the Democrats are lily-livered and don't deliver on as much as they should. And, a lot of them are more conservative than we give them credit for. But voting for a Democrat and having a Democrat in the presidency right now means that Ketanji Brown Jackson gets nominated to the Supreme Court and elected to the Supreme Court, rather than, what was the guy who liked to drink beer?
Brett Kavanaugh.
Rather than Brett Kavanaugh 2.0, this time it's personal. I've moved on to hard liquors. Like, rather than another Brett Kavanaugh, we've got someone like Ketanji Brown Jackson in there, and that's unambiguously a good thing, even with the situation where we outlined earlier with Roe versus Wade falling apart. And it doesn't make a difference to that. But if Merrick Garland hadn't had his seat stolen from him a couple of years ago, if you'd had Hillary Clinton in there instead of Trump, it would have been unambiguously better for the Supreme Court in terms of a Democratic majority, and therefore much better for the citizens of America to not have abortion rights stripped away from them at a moment's notice. Elections matter, and the Supreme Court is one of the reasons as to why.
The video of Biden and her watching the results, it was just kind of a little odd. They were just sort of standing
in the
corner of an office watching the TV. She's like, and then he's like, "Oh yes!"
He's like, "Oh yeah!"
Weird little video. I don't know.
It was it was
cute. But it was weird.
It was weird. And then he's like, "Oh, come in for give old granddad a hug," and she's like, "Oh, I guess I have to. We're here." But the thing that was astounding to me is that they only won the vote 53 votes to 47. So it was all the usual suspects like Susan Collins and Mitt Romney and the traitors, the rhinos who crossed the floor and voted with the Democrats to pass her. But it's so unusual historically that Supreme Court justices come down to that margin. You go back even just a few Supreme Court justices ago, they got in on 80, 90 vote margins, sort of 10, 20 votes difference. To go to be almost a completely partisan vote on the Supreme Court is historically unusual. It just shows how partisan and fractured and fucked up the Senate is, that a completely qualified person for the Senate, for the judgeship, comes down to a slight majority vote. There's nothing wrong with her qualifications. They just don't like who she is and don't like her politics, I guess, or what they can infer about her politics based on her skin color.
Radical left.
Second.
The radical left.
Yes, the radical left, which is code for being black in America, I guess. I don't know. It's good. It's obviously good that she passed, but I don't know. Did you guys have any particular feelings about that whole process?
Oh, that whole process, it's fucked. It's purely when people play it as a numbers game and they can, they know who's going to vote for what and that it's going to go through anyway. It's what we talked about the other week that the Republicans were just finding any kind of way to even try to imply that she was sympathetic to pedophiles, or
just quietly courting the QAnon vote there. You notice?
Yeah, just all this really fucked shit, just to be even though we know this isn't going to affect the vote, just purely so as we can have this as ammunition later, because it's just this disgusting strategic play. Yeah, it was absolutely fucked.
And there were Republicans, I recall, that went on record being like, "Oh, I'm not taking away from the historic moment that it is, but we'll be there to celebrate the historic moment, but I'm not voting for it. I refuse to be on the right side of history for this historic moment. I'm going to vote against. I will be a part of trying to take down this historic moment that's so good for our society. I'm going to vote against it." I just... Democrats are feeble, but Republicans are pure evil. I honestly don't know how else to describe it. It's you don't even believe in the things that you believe. You just want to oppose anything that is good and just in the world. You just, some men want to see the world burn, Master Wade.
And on that note,
on that happy note, we have been, we are, and we always will be Unnatural Selection. Make sure you visit us at our salubrious home on the web, unnaturalshow.com. Make sure you follow us on all the bullshit social medias that have, do, or ever will exist at Unnatural Show. That's Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and motherfucking TikTok. Make sure you follow me on Instagram and Twitter at George Tsipos.
You can follow me on Twitter at Tom D. Heath.
You can follow me on Instagram at AC Doreen.
And you can follow us all down to Casey Briggs's The Crunch. Was it The Crunch? Is that what they're calling it?
Yeah, The Crunch.
You know
Yeah.
nothing of the crunch. Follow us down to Casey Briggs' The Crunch, where he'll be crunching the numbers for us in desperate anticipation of May 21st when the election is called.
Do we think that Anthony Green's a little bit like, get off my turf, bro?
Casey, this is my fucking patch, mate. Okay? I'm the fucking election guy. You're the numbers guy. Stay in your fucking lane, Casey. Okay? And Anthony Green slashed his tires. That's what I heard. This may not actually be a fact. Thanks for listening, guys. Love your faces. We'll see you next week.